Back here live. I almost cannot believe that I'm doing this, but I had the absolute worst schedule this week and last week, as you guys can imagine. And as grateful as I am that I can continue to live my life pretty much unaffected, like my job is still the same, my work is still the same, the workload isn't for sure. Um, but like my day to day hasn't really changed much. It still has its challenges because, at least on an emotional level, mental level, it has been probably the most trying time in my life, and I don't think it's fair based on the circumstances, but at the same time, it's good to be experiencing this because it also demonstrates to me just how much I can actually deal with and how okay I actually am versus, the little credit that I give myself when it comes to what I'm able to process and whatnot. So anyway, I thought today I would set aside some time to actively browse the internet for trends, or at least visit social networks, which I'm primarily on Twitter if I ever am on a social network. And what I like about Twitter is the way that it presents information. You have like the trends page, it all has tabs. It's very easy for me to stay on the loop while on the go while visiting Twitter, because usually the stuff that trends is stuff that is tailored to me, and even the people who I know who are close to me happen to find out about these things as well. So since I have been away from the internet in a sense for quite some time, I feel like I haven't fed my brain with information that doesn't revolve around work and coming home and eating and then sleeping and repeat. Then I thought, well, let's just see what's happening in the internet, because this is something I have always enjoyed, but I have been deprived of this because of my whack ass schedule. So anyway, so far what I'm seeing on my For You tab on my Twitter account, it changed as of an hour ago, because an hour ago these were not the trends that I was seeing, but I can find them if I click on different tabs. So the first thing that I see happens to be divine intervention, because I don't know if I ever got to mention this to you guys, but if you have been watching me religiously for however long it's been since I said this, I remember mentioning that there's a person. Every time I see their name trending, I think it is a girl, but it's actually a man. And that person's name was Shia LaBeouf, or Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf. How the fuck do you say that? I have actually never heard that name being pronounced, but every time I would see it, I always assumed that it was a woman, and then I would click on it, and it always turned out to be a man, and I was pretty confused. I kept looking for the Shia. To me, that sounds like a female name, but it turned out to be a guy. But to be fair, this name, it was only from this person that I ever saw it. So I'm not really beating my head with a bat too hard on that one, but like every time I see that person trending now, I finally learned that it's actually a man and not a woman. So, random note, I know it's not really that important, but I just felt bad that I couldn't tell you guys immediately at that time what the name was. But I remember that I used to think of the singer like Sia, and I said Sia, Shia, Shia, Sia. Something about it helped me remember it better. So anyway, that's what that's about. And then something else that was trending last night, that I was able to peek at while I tried to like bore myself to sleep. It had to do with entertainment and say Marvel and movies and TV shows. And then Shuri, or Shuri, It's currently trending, and if you guys don't know, this is supposed to be T'Challa's sister from Black Panther, which is a Marvel movie, in case you don't know what it is, superhero movie. And long story short, ever since Chadwick died, we have not really arrived at an absolute consensus as to whether we should recast that role or not recast it. I am of the opinion of I think it should be recast because I don't think it's fair for this virtually freshly introduced character by cinema standards. We just got him introduced and now we're losing him. You're taking him away for no good reason. Just because in real life we have like this code of honor and respect that we want to like enforce, but I if I think about it from a theater mind, like when I used to take theater classes, I feel like I may be super old school when it comes to this, but I feel like the show must go on. So I just refuse to believe that when the Black Panther character was created, we created it with like the thought in mind of the first actor that we cast is the one who must represent Black Panther forever. In my mind, it's a little absurd. And this is also the entertainment world. You're telling me that there is absolutely no actor alive who can perform this role. Like, we tend to really get spoiled by one really good performance, and that's all we want to see. What if, just what if, there is another person out there yet to be discovered, yet to be given the opportunity to portray a character who is not mainstream and they could do a better job or just as good a job as what we're used to getting from mainstream media. And again, to me, Chadwick was relatively new to the business. I have only seen three movies in which he was in 21 Bridges, Black Panther, and of course his appearances in other of the Marvel movies. And also the one about him being a soldier and the Five Bloods or something, I think it's called. It has to do with bloods. Those are the only movies I've seen with him. I haven't seen the Jackie Robinson one, but I thought that he was an amazing actor. And nobody's taking away his credit. I'm not trying to be dismissive and feel like the fact that he is gone doesn't matter. It does matter. It is tragic, and I was absolutely a sad cookie when I heard the news. And you guys know it because I made a video about it. But when it comes to the role of Black Panther, we keep having this discussion, and Disney last night announced that they wouldn't recast that role. And I'm thinking, what does it mean to not recast the role? Does it mean that this character is ending there? But I understand that Shuri, she in the comics actually governed Wakanda for some time. But I don't think it was this early on in the game. And I know that the cinematic universe is not supposed to be an exact mirror of what happens in the comics. Like, the adaptation can be a little bit different. But it's just that in my mind, if you were to give the Black Panther suit, say, to her, I feel like it's not quite justified yet. But then again, we haven't seen how much of Black Panther 2 was completed, how much of it we didn't get to film with Chadwick, how much of it is going to be available, how much of it will be changed. What would be the final product right now if the movie were to be released like tomorrow? I'm curious about that. But when it comes to the whole debate of should this role be recast, yes. Like, if it were me, I would personally not want for a complete project, a complete work of art to just come down because I'm no longer the representative. And when it comes to music, I know that I wouldn't necessarily tune into, say, my favorite band is Evanescence. If Amy Lee were not the vocalist, I cannot imagine feeling as passionate about it. So I guess that's why people, the people I've talked to about Black Panther, they say, I just cannot imagine being as passionate about Black Panther if it's not Chadwick playing it. I can understand it from that perspective. If I think about it musically, it's like, yeah, I understand what you mean because there are some songs that I do not like the original, but I like a cover. But there are some bands who I only like the current members, and if they were to leave or change, I definitely would not gravitate toward as much. I can understand it if I think about it that way. However, it doesn't mean that I would stop listening to rock music, for example, if that were the case. So I don't think that this area of having this specific superhero should be completely scrapped because are no longer we no longer have the actor available. So I can see why it's a complicated matter in my mind. It's not complicated at all, but I can see how very easily it becomes complicated by people and their opinions and their feelings, but I try to look at it as objectively as possible, and I really think that this character does not deserve to be Porygon. And if you guys don't know what I mean, is Porygon was a Pokemon that their original episode caused a lot of people to have like seizures in Japan when it first aired back in, I think it was the late 90s. And as a result, that Pokemon has never appeared in a future Pokemon episode. So, are we going to do the same with Black Panther? Black Panther can now never show up in a future episode because of Chadwick's passing. So, in a sense, I have a little bit of experience with traumas like that. So, maybe that's why I have my opinion seems to be all over the place. But I really think that the character should be recast because it's interesting and what can I say? It was finally Black Panther was legitimately the one character I was excited about. And I was excited about Black Panther because of what the character brought to the table, that meaning of the character himself. I really cannot say that I was thinking, wow, it has to be Chadwick as Black Panther or else I'm not interested. I really feel like Black Panther alone does the trick for me. And Superman, the modern day Superman that we had, Henry Cavill, I never was into Superman as a superhero. And to be honest with you, even though I enjoyed the interpretation of the character done by Henry Cavill, I still don't think about Superman very often. So it's either the character's story captivates me or it doesn't. So Black Panther, the whole Black Panther thing, being, notion, captivated me. And another thing that captivated me was like, the, what can I say, comedy stuff that people were creating online, uh like the channels like How It Should Have Ended. To me, my favorite episode was the one with Black Panther in it, the first Black Panther movie, because I thought that they absolutely nailed it with the episode. Is Chadwick Boseman the one behind that Black Panther from How It Should Have Ended? No, but it is one of my favorite episodes. So, see what I mean? It doesn't really depend on the man behind the suit. To me, it's what is the content of this character that matters to me. And if you were to recast Black Panther and the quality of the character declines because the current actor, what can I say, is not delivering his portrayal properly, that's another business. But what bothers me is that presently we are not even trying to give someone the opportunity to give this character life in the screen again. So hopefully, I was able to clarify my perspective there. And Garuda says that it's pronounced shy. I feel like I heard that before, come to think of it, in a video. but it was so long ago, it was so brief that I thought, wow, it's neither Shia, it's not Shia, it's Shy. Where does that come from? um, but but anyway, I'm not sure where this guy is from. I really don't know him. Is he an actor or a musician? He's trending because someone is suing him. FKA Twigs. Um, Relentless abusive relationship, something like that. That's what the cover of the story says. So I don't know. Hi Zamri, how are you doing today? Big hugs from Michigan. God bless you. Your hair is awesome. Thank you, Jordan. How's it going? It's good to see you. I've seen you around on Twitter, but I had to remain a little bit silent, for I have not replied to absolutely anybody who has posted anything or messaged anything. There's only one person who I actively text, and it's usually me being manager mode, going like, do this for me, get that done for me, promote this, promote that, rearrange this. And I'm thinking, wow, how do I not have time for anything? But anyway, it's good to see you and talk to you in this medium. And yeah, if you guys wonder, my hair is going to look a little curlier than normal because I cut the absolute shit out of it. I cut about 10 inches from it. So it's pretty short. It barely goes below my shoulders now. But I had to do it because it had died so bad. Like, it was nothing but split ends, and it was becoming uncomfortable, to be fair. But I actually felt the impulse because I was looking at pictures of me from back in 2012. And in 2012, I used to have my hair shoulder length, and I remember loving it. It was amazing. It was so easy to manage. I could wash it in like 5 minutes. But then when I have it short, I yearn to have it long again. And I said, realistically, it's not very manageable right now, and I had it insanely long for the last I want to say last 4 years or so. So I felt it was time for something new. But anyway, I'm glad that you like it. But when I shorten my hair tremendously like that, it gets super, 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 super curly because like it doesn't have an opportunity to relax, and I also cannot braid it, which braiding it helps calm down the curls and make them wavy instead. So I was kind of nervous about getting it done, but I said, nah, it has to happen. So yeah, I don't feel like I have to trim anymore, but it is possible that I'm gonna keep it this length for maybe a year or two, because I was no longer having fun with long hair. Um, let's see. There's something else that I wanted to bring up. Oh yeah, did you guys hear that we are going to have Hayden Christensen back as Darth Vader? Are we going to be nice to him this time around? Because let me tell you guys, I fell victim to The Mandalorian. I decided to watch the first season on the last round of days off that I had. And I was quite pleased. I kept hearing that it was really good, it was really nice, that I should try it out, but when I have to catch up with something series like that, I like for it to be mostly done and then start watching it, because I don't like to have a commitment to it. Say on Fridays, like today, I believe, a new episode comes out and they're in season 2, and I just finished the first season, so I haven't watched anything from season 2. If you guys want to talk about spoilers, feel free to. They don't bother me, but if someone present mind spoilers, then say something and maybe we'll refrain. But if you guys ever want to say something, I will never lose my mind over spoilers. I don't get excited about, oh, I haven't seen it, so you cannot talk about it. I don't care. But yeah, it was an amazing experience. I have had, without kidding nor exaggerating, when I watched the first Mandalorian episode, I was more pleased by one episode of Mando than the first three movies. Not the 1970s Star Wars, the episodes 1, 2, and 3 from like 1999 until 2000. Was it 2005 that episode 3 came out? And I said, wow, this is Star Wars done right. And this is probably gonna sound really messed up, but it is far more memorable than the Rey saga. Okay? Now, I'm not trying to like hate on her. It's not necessarily her fault per se. It's just that the way Star Wars captivates me, the more frequent movies were not doing it for me. The more recent movies were not intriguing me like that. So to have Mando, I walked into it without knowing what to expect. I knew nothing about Mandalorians except that I had seen them in, I think it was called, was it Clone Wars or Attack of the Clones? I forget. But I recognized the helmet design. I just did not know that the individuals who wielded that helmet and armor were Mandalorians. Like that's the name of the race. What is the name of Yoda's race? Yodans? I don't know. So I said, "Oh, cool. We have a nice Mandalorian character from Star Wars who's intriguing." And I really enjoyed the action, the dialogue, the pacing, everything about it was really, really good. And I sometimes do not like to watch shows that have multiple episodes and seasons and stuff like that because some of them feel like they're a waste of time, especially filler episodes. And Dragon Ball Z, I think, is what traumatized me to watching stuff that's long because let's face it, Dragon Ball Z, when you think about it critically, is not as good as you may think. I personally enjoy abridged series of Dragon Ball better than the show itself, and it's because it would really slow down at some points. And what I love about the abridged series is that it ridicules those facts. Like, Vegeta always saying that he's the Prince of all Saiyans, Prince of all Saiyans. I am the mightiest warrior, this and that. So when the abridged series take that and turn it into a mockery, it really makes me forget how bored I am during the show. But as a kid, it seemed amazing because you have people who can transform and fly and go to outer space and shoot things, shoot blasts through their hands and see destruction and fights and cartoon violence, and something about that was amazing. But when I watched it when I got older, like I want to say 2015 is when I went back and revisited Dragon Ball Z, like the original show. I thought it was terrible. I was outright skipping episodes. And the thing about watching the episodes now is that when I first watched the show, I watched it from Cartoon Network. And you guys know how songs have like a radio edit that comes out? Well, those shows have a TV edit version that is what gets aired. And some scenes are actually chopped from the original. And there were a lot of scenes that I'm like, it's either been a long time or I've never seen this before. But I knew Dragon Ball Z so well when I was growing up that I knew for a fact that it was some scenes had been cut from what aired on TV. But with Mandalorian, now I'm wondering what scenes have not made it to the show that we're missing out on. And it could have been that one scene that would have made a particular scene even more impactful than what we got. But all of them have been satisfactory. So I don't feel bad about wasting time watching The Mandalorian. And I call it wasting time because I feel like during times like that, I need to be productive in building up my life and, hustling and whatnot. So that's one of the things that I'm very conscious about. I like to invest my time productively. So maybe that's why I have had to sacrifice my presence in the channel a little bit, because I had to embark in new things to really help me get a little bit ahead, and not get stuck. But yeah, you guys, I'm excited to see what new stuff comes out. I know that the lady who directed Wonder Woman, which I enjoyed the first Wonder Woman, is behind some of the Star Wars stuff. I forget which. I think it's the Obi-Wan stuff. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Don't quote me. But I know that she'll be behind some of this stuff, and if she is, then great, because she's done a really good job with Wonder Woman. And I think that the guy who's currently working on Mando will be coming out with something as well. But anyway, what I wanted to say was that the people who are involved with directing future Star Wars stuff are really good with what they do. So maybe I will fall victim to that stuff when it comes out, especially if those close to me tell me that something is good. Because with Mando, I postponed it and I said, okay, the whole first season is out. Maybe it's a good time to start getting caught up now. And I went into it under the impression that, say, the first season had between 15 and 20 episodes, but it only had like 8. And I'm like, well, that's disappointing. I thought that I would spend more time here. Let's see. Ready for Christmas. I'm doing good things. I'm ready for next year. It's good to see you too. I understand that about Twitter. I love your tweets. I've been throwing so much like shade on my Twitter lately. Like that has been the most I have been active on the internet. So anything that absolutely bothered me or was odd or was crazy or was frustrating or was exciting, I made sure to tweet it because I know that I'm gonna forget. Just like sometimes people who see me, they go like, "Hey, tell your mom I said hello." I never fucking remember to tell my mom that someone said hi, and I especially do not remember who said to tell her that they said hi. So, so when it comes to that social aspect of me, you guys know me. I'm antisocial, so like, I don't dominate that skill very well, but if it's someone who really stands out, like you hold a special place, then sure, I don't even have to put effort into remembering that you said something. But if you're some relatively random person, sorry, I'm not gonna deliver your message. Not because I don't want to, but because my brain is occupied by things that may outweigh your message just a little bit. Hey, at least I'm honest about it as opposed to being fake about it. Like, oh, yeah, well, nah, I didn't tell mom because I didn't see her. Yeah, like, nah, I tell the truth. So, hello from California. You're on the opposite end from where I reside. Greetings. Good to see you. I love it, and I'm glad to see it too. I'm thinking about getting Locks next year. I miss all the Star Wars episodes. I'm so behind. I need to application. I remember Star Wars cartoons in the 2000s. I remember, I think it was Clone Wars. I remember the cartoon that, of course, I think it was in Cartoon Network. Anakin had that look that he had on episode 2. Like he had his metallic hand with like the little braid that he had sticking out independently. And he had that attire, but I don't remember anything about the theme of what was going on in that show. I just remember that there were a bunch of droids getting lightsabered and blasted with the blaster or whatever. But yeah, I don't remember much at all about that show. I just remember how Anakin looked like and the bold colors present, but I don't remember the show. I only watched about maybe 3 episodes or so. Um, but I don't think they ever came out with a movie about that, did they? Maybe. I've heard new movies are coming out on Amazon Prime. Twitter is very different between Instagram and Facebook. Clone Wars, that's right. See, Facebook, I don't know if I've said this before, I probably have, but Facebook, the whole reason I have it is because I need for my pictures to go somewhere. That's not my phone. I'm not going to email them to myself because then browsing through them would be difficult. But Facebook, it gives you a preview of the picture and you can just find it and show people. So I have more albums set to invisible with random photos than I actually have photos being shared with my friends. And I never message anybody there. Nobody messages me, and I'm never leaving comments. Nothing. I'm just not there. And I used to be super active on Facebook up until I want to say 2013. And after that, it I just lost the appeal. I never truly assimilated to Facebook from MySpace. I really thought that MySpace was the best. It was superior in every way. You actually had flexibility. You could design your profile, you could have music, you could send messages, comments, and post bulletins and everything. To me, MySpace seemed more user friendly. But then Facebook, it was really whack. It was just infinite blue and white, and it just had nothing that attracted me to it. You cannot even at least HTML your way into decorating your profile. There is nothing to do on Facebook except waste your time. At least MySpace seemed more welcoming, warm, colorful. You had forums that you could visit. I'm sure that Facebook has its forums too. I guess they're called groups. But it is nothing like my MySpace experience. I would not want my 12-year-old child, if I had him or her, to be on Facebook. I wish that they could get a beginning like I had in MySpace. I feel like my time there was fulfilling. But anyway, we all say, oh, well, when during my time stuff was better. And then eventually, the person you're saying that to, they look back at their past and they're like, they're telling the new generation that they thought that their time was better. So it's insane. But when it comes to Facebook and social media and all that, I don't do Instagram. I tried it and I thought it sucked. I don't even know if I got to post something because I thought it was absurd that everything that you post needed to have a picture. So I don't do Instagram. Facebook is exclusively for real life people who I actively completely know. If I have not met you or seen you face to face, or like we went to school together or something like that, you have no business in my Facebook. And then my Twitter, that's where my Twitter is an extension of my YouTube, except that it's in written form. And then YouTube is the replacement of my personal handwritten journal. But when it comes to social networking on YouTube, it's awkward because it's not like while I'm making a video or streaming, I can be interacting with someone as opposed to being on the comment section, being that person who watches videos. I'm trying to be more outspoken as opposed to being the silent watcher of videos. I'm trying to leave comments everywhere. And some comments, I get some good feedback, and some comments, people just do not know how to elaborate with their responses. And I'm like, okay, thank you for that email notification. And thanks for that little bell icon that tells me I have replies to a comment I left on someone else's video. But I'm like, I wish YouTube, I wish I could teach YouTube to not notify me of stupid comments, because I feel like it occupies me from giving attention to someone who genuinely would engage me better. I don't want to sound like I'm stuck up or full of myself, but sometimes there are some really stupid one-liner replies that I wish I didn't get email notifications for. But there's some emails that I do want to receive. So yeah, I have learned to just, carry on like always, but But sometimes I just wish that I didn't experience that delay so that I could have a smooth transition from one interactive task to another. It's just my personal preference. And then I know there was something else that I wanted to point out to you guys, but it's not coming to me at the moment. But anyway, we got some interesting trends going on, so catch up with the comments and then we'll continue. Facebook is very boring. Yes! Nothing but nasty pictures and sad news. Yes! And people putting their personal life on there. I do have Facebook just for the gospel. See, the interesting thing about Facebook is that psychologically, when I do get on there and I notice some people's posts, I am reminded that I am no longer a teenager in the weirdest way, and that is that I see all kinds of people having kids. Some people already have 5-year-old kids. Some people already have kids that are almost 10 years old, and I'm like, why? When? How? It makes me more aware of how the passage of time, pretty much. And it's also cool to see where some people are at, but some people really like to post too much about where they are at that I do not care about. And another thing is that since I skipped college, it's weird to see that most people on my Facebook are college grads and that they give off this aura that they have real jobs, more, what is it, fulfilling important lives and whatnot. But then when I think about what it really means to have their position, I'm not jealous at all. Because a lot of them, I'm complaining about not having time for much, right? But a lot of them don't have time for a lot of things for the wrong reasons. And another thing is that some people have changed so dramatically physically that I have caught myself physically having my jaw dropped. And I'm thinking, wow, you used to be so small, but now you're huge, or you used to be huge, but now you're like smaller, or you're fit, or you used to be like blonde, but now you dyed your hair, and things like that, those extreme physical changes. And some people just look like from another planet to me, like I've never met them before. You had like your childhood face, and you maintained it, but now you changed your eyebrow shape, or you changed something about you, or you used to wear makeup but now you don't, and vice versa. And now I'm like, you're a alien. I don't know you. And some people have changed for the better. Some people have changed in ways that I'm concerned about, but other people like me, we haven't changed at all. And I know for a fact that it's going to get even more shocking from here on out. And sometimes I wonder if I'm even ready for that. Like, especially when we start hitting our 40s and stuff, that's when I'm sure that a lot of things are just going to hit me at once, and I'm like, wow. But at least with social media, we have much more of our personal history documented compared to the past. I would give absolutely anything to have video footage of my grandfather, and possibly more pictures, color pictures of my great grandparents, especially when they were young. I've never seen my great grandparents when they were young. So, yeah, it's nice to see that once we all perish, your history is going to be available there for someone to access, because trust me, your descendants will get curious. And even those who may not be your descendants, if you decide to not have any kids, think about the people who, if you have siblings and those siblings have kids, assuming that they have a lifestyle in which they can think outside their phone, they're going to be like, hey, Uncle so and so, who was your uncle? Who was your brother or sister? So it's nice to see that it is very unlikely that entire generations of family history are going to get lost, or some stories are not going to be passed on. So I find great relief in that area because lately I've been very curious about my own family and their past and everything, and I'm thinking, darn, if only the stuff that I have now would have existed some 10, 20 years ago. But anyway, it's also fun to engage in the homework of finding this stuff out. Let's see. Instagram is like cable and video games. It's better. I like Twitter too, but Facebook, most people taking it too seriously, what people say. Hello, Jimmy. I haven't forgotten about you. I owe you and two more people emails, and I promise that I'm going to get to it this weekend. I said, no matter what, this weekend is going to be a social weekend for me. Because there's some people that I also got a text. Because unfortunately, at work, we have had many casualties with what's going around. Not as in they have completely like passed on, nothing like that. It's more of they have fallen victim to it, and as a result they have to miss days and weeks, and the other people have just outright quit or have gotten quitted. And the entire landscape of where I'm at, almost everybody is new. I can count those of us who have been there for more than 4 years, probably with one hand, and then the rest is like new people. And you guys know me, I'm pretty antisocial, but it's not making it easy. And I'm also not very interested in getting to know these people given their temporary status. It's like as soon as I'm done saying hello to you, you're already out the door. It feels like a waste of time. If you guys remember, if you've been around long enough, I even made a video about interactions that I consider a waste of time. If you're not going to be worthwhile, then I don't want to try to get to know you as a human being. Sure, I should be polite and be like, oh, I gotta acknowledge your existence, but I don't want to cultivate something that's going to be meaningless in a little bit. But anyway, that's just the cold-blooded side of me coming out. Most people take it personal when some people don't like Facebook, but it's funny that the owner of Facebook doesn't care he's living rich. Yeah, true that. Sometimes I wonder what would it be to be an employee of a social media website, especially if you're the person policing inappropriate content. Like, did you guys hear the news about that website in which explicit content is produced, and how there was some kind of op-ed or expose or something that was written by someone, and then all of a sudden they're changing their policies to attempt to like crack down better on like stuff that is intruding the illegal realm. So imagine being the person who's part of I think they called it their red team. Imagine being a member of their red team and you have to crack down on the so-called illegal content. So you're like watching so much of God knows what and then flagging it and getting it removed from the site. I wouldn't enjoy being an employee for such an industry. But not only that, imagine that you lose your job from working for this website, and then you gotta write your resume for when you're looking for a new job, and then you were like, I held a management position dealing with security or legal matters. Where? What's the name of this website? And then you have to admit that, it's this website. Would you be proud of that? I personally would think twice about hiring someone who comes from such an industry. And I'm not trying to be discriminatory or anything, but those little things are supposed to matter, right? So imagine you trying to get a job outside of that industry. Maybe within the industry, if you decide to apply for a job that's within the same industry, like, yes, working for explicit websites and whatever it is that you do, management there, you don't have to be necessarily a participating actor or whatever, but you're still involved in the industry. What makes you want to jump ships? So, yeah, I'm not sure, but I just know that we're living in some crazy times, and some of it is cool, but a lot of it, not so much. I often see friends I met in college who now have kids that are in college, and I think, wait, what? We were all just college kids ourselves. Where did the time go? Yeah, and especially this year with what's happening right now, it's been really difficult to keep track of time. A little bit of me now is finally letting go of the fact that it's been a long gas time since March. We're like, what, 2, 3 months away from March? So I feel like this, I'm gonna look back to this time as it was all a blur, but also so much happened, but it has happened in a way in which you don't get to create fresh memories because your daily cycle is still looking the same. Like, for instance, I'm still working at the same place, same hours. The only difference is I have to wear a concealment on my face, and what is it? Our hours are a little different too. We have to close early. We have to be at home by a certain time, but this entire time it feels like a blur in my mind. It's like, yeah, if I were to summarize this year, first of all, I didn't go anywhere. Not that I would go anywhere on previous years, but it's been a little tough to say, oh yeah, this happened back in June, back in July. I have to remember things by how the weather was nowadays, because it's not like I'm going to the movies anymore. Like, I used to use movies coming out as bookmarks. Like, say one of the Spider-Man movies came out in a July. So I'm like, oh yeah, back in July, this happened. Because I remember that around that time, I went to see this and that at the movie theater. But nowadays, I have zero reference of what has happened when. So that's why this year, it's all going to look like in March 2020, all of this happened in that same month. Because that's when everything, my most vivid memories are from March. And then everything else in between, the only other memories that stand out have been the more frustrating times that I had, say, at my job, and conversations that I had with certain people. I I remember the dates for those, or the months for those, because of what was surrounding those circumstances. But outside of that, I wouldn't know anything. I wouldn't remember anything. This year is one big blur. March to December was all very much the same, except for, as you said, the weather. Yeah, if it weren't for the fact that the weather is now doing its thing, which even the weather seemed to have forgotten what to do, because we didn't experience cold weather until 2 weeks ago. And usually by late September, we start feeling things cooling down, but hell nah. It was still warm as hell until early November, pretty much. But even our environment doesn't help us much, so we're living in some interesting times for sure. And then the thing that stood out for me that's trending on Twitter is entitled "What's Going On Right Now is Creating a New Kind of Financial Midlife Crisis." And that is the saddest thing to read nowadays when it comes to what's going on, because some people already had it rough. Like, no question about it. But now with this thing, that matter is aggravated because now you have to factor in uncertainty. This was something unprecedented, and for some of us, we have never even had parents who have gone through something similar. At least my mom, when she was around, her grandparents could tell her about the Great Depression. But now it's not like I can ask any of my grandparents, hey, what was it like during your time when this trying thing started taking place? So we don't have a lot of guidance when it comes to this. And when it comes to finances, it's already a struggle for most of us. And now you have to take this into account. People who were taking risks, people who were investing in certain things. It's like you are potentially facing a restart in your life. But how can you possibly restart if you're not going to get that time back? It's not like you can refund this time back to people. Some people really don't have a second chance. So when I hear about what people have lost, I undoubtedly have a lot of empathy for them because I know what it's like to have to work for a long time to get just a little bit of something come back to you. And now all of a sudden, this thing that nobody asked for, it was nobody's fault. Like say, oh yeah, I made a terrible decision. Like I decided to postpone working for no good reason, and now I have to suffer the consequences of not making a certain amount of money to make sure that I can write this out. Nothing like that. It was just you were living a perfectly normal life, hearing about this thing happening in another country as the media was presenting it to us. But then all of a sudden, this shut down the whole world. So even the people who knew of some stability, they lost their jobs. And because they were accustomed to a certain lifestyle that they couldn't necessarily like dial back from, they're in the same boat as you. The only difference is their house is a little bigger, their house is a little shinier, or car is a little shinier, and they have maybe a few more pieces of jewelry or something. But it's like we were all in the same boat. Like no matter who you were getting to a certain extent the same treatment, which is no, you still gotta wait in the lines, or your mail is arriving just as late, or even you too can request payment relief, so on and so forth. And when it comes to payment relief, there's the people who, when they had their regular jobs, they were making more than what they were making when they started getting benefits. But some people started to make more from benefits than what they were making during their regular daytime jobs. And then that opened another can of worms that had been sort of sealed, which is the argument of, well, but if people make more money, they're not incentivized to go work. For me personally, during this time, I'm not incentivized to go to work when I am not being treated respectfully, and I know that my safety is not the priority. The priority is to keep making stakeholders happy. And I don't think that's fair at my expense. And when I say me and myself and I in that instance, I mean everybody who's in my position, you know. So my safety is not something that you're religiously looking after, because otherwise you would be doing much more that you have the capacity of doing, but you're trying to convince me otherwise. So at least this helped me confirm the faces, their intentions that I really don't get to see or greet in person more often. And a lot more hypocrisy came up. And I'm just grateful that this showed the real faces of people that we don't get to see. It's a really weird way how this happened. But it's a relief to know, because now I know that in case of emergency, I'm alone. And I would rather find out about it now than when something even more disastrous happens and I realize that my community is not as united as we think. So I think that was the most mentally demanding aspect of this, when you already know that your life sucks a little bit, but this just helped you see the real depth of the matter. So I know that sounds really dark and like really random to bring up, but I really want you guys to see, at least from my perspective, the kinds of thoughts that this thing inevitably triggered and the kinds of experiences that I have had and why they matter. Because it's one thing for me to sense that I'm by myself versus actually witnessing how truly by myself I am. And I'm not mad, I'm not resentful, I'm not like uh, bitter or anything about it. I just wish that we could get better, and hopefully after this experience our priorities shift for the better. That's what I'm trying to say, because I feel like we're still living accelerated lives. We're still uh what is it, not patient, standing in queue to like buy your groceries. We're still driving really recklessly because we think that running the red light and saving those few seconds is really going to make a difference in our day. Like, just engaging in this reckless behavior. This showed an even darker side of people that I hadn't personally witnessed, but I knew it was there. But hopefully this helps some people just rethink their lives a little bit. And for me personally, I haven't really been stressed out much. The only thing that has stressed me out has been the stupid demands from my job, which I know that these demands are coming from everywhere. And it's because nobody had a plan for this unnatural uptick in business. And while I'm glad that I guess the earth is still producing and there's still a job, why is this the way that life has to be? Why do we have to still be like, a disaster happens, I get sick, or weather related disaster, and I have to be worried about a job and making money and all that? So stupid. But anyway, that's just the way I see it. So, let's see. Some of the comments that are being said in this trend is having more time for sleep, friends, family, and just thinking can be wonderful if one has an identity outside of their career, but it can be hell on earth if they don't. And you see, one of the reasons why I object so severely to being a full time worker is that it's absorbing your life. Your youth is being absorbed by four walls if you work inside a building, and you come back home drained mentally, that you're uninterested in those around you. At some point, I had to have many, many, many fights with people who I know in person because I was noticing that mentally they were changing. They weren't remembering things. They weren't nice. They always were moody, restless, stressed out. And I said, why are you okay with this? Why do you tolerate so much abuse? So now when this thing hit and certain aspects of life slowed down a bit, everybody was like, well, it's nice to be getting some sleep, even if I have to be stressed out about the fact that I'm jobless and whatnot. I'm like, well, look at this as a forced rest. The way that you were living your life was not sustainable. So at least this disaster helped you slow down a little bit and perhaps remember what are the things that truly matter. So it's difficult. It's like a quadruple edged sword cuz for every positive there were maybe two negatives. But I just think that we still live so primitively that a disaster has to happen for us to realize that some stuff is just outright unhealthy. And I just wish that we spent more time thinking about the consequences of, say, allowing for your full time worker life to govern your life. With my boyfriend, for example, I kept telling him, why do we always have to talk about our fucking jobs during our personal time? We happen to work at the same place, but I always tell him, let's try to dedicate just 10 minutes to, you have 10 minutes to tell me about anything that you want that happened at work, and I have my 10 minutes, and after that, let it go. Let's talk about other things, because we're on the clock 8 hours a day and we come home to talk more about it. No, I'm done. I'm through. I'm not getting paid for this. And I genuinely like my job from the perspective of I can help people do a very basic thing that for some people may seem challenging, such as shopping. It I can understand now why some people may find it difficult for various reasons, whether it be physical or mental or say technology changing the way we shop. You just need to be coached on something. I don't mind that, but when you start invading my life to the point that now I don't have a life because my schedule is very demanding and I start gaining weight and I sleep less, I wake up more sore and I have apathy for my hobbies and everything, that's when I know that there is a problem. When more than one area of my life is being negatively affected, and no matter how hard I try to make everything work, I find myself restless and rushing and trying to make things work, like artificially, I know that something needs to change. So that's when I decided, once I leave work, I am done. It is over. I'm letting it go. Nobody talked to me about it. And 2 years ago, when I attempted to go see a doctor when I was feeling terrible, this my lady was like, "Oh, so from your profile, I see that you work at so and so. I see that they have implemented this new program or system. How does that work?" And I'm like, lady, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not getting paid for this. It shouldn't be about, I have to make $1 out of everything, but I know someone out there is making more money than I am for doing this exact thing. Same thing. This is a job now, telling you about how this works outside of my clock in hours. That's essentially a loss for me because I'm supposed to be working on my own personal business. So why can I dedicate so many endless hours of my day to someone else for them to build their wealth? And when does my wealth grow, So so anyway, it just helped me become an even greater critical thinker. And sometimes I feel like my critical thinking seems to be a little more angry and radical. But at the same time, I'm like, no, it's the fucking truth. And if it's the truth, you don't need to be ashamed for it. I used to feel bad that I was thinking negative. Negative from the perspective of, wow, everything that surrounds me is a lie. Or someone is always trying to sell me something. Ads are everywhere. Even fucking YouTube, they decided to come out now with this thing that they say, we have a right to monetize your content. You won't see any money from it, but we can make money from anything that you put up. And I'm thinking, you're not producing that. In a sense, if you're starting to pay someone for content being made, and it's the exact same process, the only difference is the appearance of the product. Someone is still putting the work to produce content that you now get to monetize, but the person who contributed this piece of work for you to monetize is not seeing money from it. At least give them a half, which even if you're part of the partner program, they still take half of what you make. So so why do you like to stomp on small powerless people, like small channels are like small businesses. They're the first ones to suffer. So if you have a right to monetize that, they should have a right to monetize within your platform, even if they're not meeting the criteria that other people just so happen to meet to monetize from that. You see, so if that kills some people's motivation to pursue certain things, I never get mad at them because I think it is unfair. Even if these other people who are big on the platform, they have put in the work of many decades. What I'm saying is that you being fresh to the platform is no excuse to not get paid for it. Like, I'm not expecting, me personally, I'm not expecting to make millions of dollars like other creators do here. Like, of course not. I don't have brand deals and whatnot. It's not YouTube that's giving you all that money. But what I'm saying is that just because I'm entry level doesn't mean that I cannot make a single cent unless I meet some crazy criteria. See what I mean? So at least outside of this realm, outside the digital realm, in real life, you still gotta get paid, even if you are entry level. But if it were up to the people in power, I feel no doubt that if they could get away with not paying you, they would. And we have a history of that happening. It was just more brutal. The only difference between the present day and the days back then is that some stuff we have finally admitted that was absolute heinous, and we have decided to condemn those things. But we still have a long way to go. We still have a lot of progress to make. So, at least this time off that was forced upon some people forced them to think critically yet again. And that's why a part of me is like, I'm glad that stuff is happening the way it's happening, because otherwise, some of the great awakenings or reawakenings that people are having, that wouldn't be on the radar right now. And I always felt like that was important. But when you would try to bring that matter up to people, you were treated like you were crazy because people were too caught up with their routine and their daily life and, fake it till you make it and getting by. That fucking getting by mindset. It fucking pissed me off so much. But anyway, maybe one day I'll create a topic going over that, but just don't conform yourself with that. Like, well, this is normal. This is the path I wanted to take. If I want to be financially stable, I have to invest all this time. Then you're going to age and physically break down, or God forbid, something in between happens. And what about all that time that you invested that you missed out on? You're making this sacrifice for what? What is the ultimate goal? Is this goal your idea, or is it something that someone forced on you to believe that this is the way for you to live a great life and be ahead of the game? What does it mean to you individually to be ahead of the game? I don't know about you guys, but I appreciate the fact that I can still move on my own. Like, say, I don't have to feel so incredibly sore and think twice about taking a step because, I'm too tired or too sore, or my nerves got pinched, or like, I have permanent headaches. That's how I was beginning to feel when I was allowing for my schedule to be taking control of me. And I said, something needs to change because this is not sustainable. I am not even super, super, super old, but I can barely rely on my body. I can't stay awake. I'm not eating, or I'm eating too much, or I'm sleeping, but I don't have energy. I'm eating, but I don't have energy. I'm moody. I'm irritable. My feet hurt. My lower back hurts. Uh, I'm seeing my skin was getting irritated. What the fuck is going on? I did not recognize myself anymore. And that's why I said, working more, making more money, getting promotions is not going to make this better. It's going to make it worse. So before allowing myself to fall into that trap, I said, not doing it. So The reason I say all that is because now the people who were caught up playing that game, the game of getting ahead, expressed that they regretted it. And it took this happening for them to be like, wow, I cannot believe that my experience of 10, 15 years is now being reduced to nothingness. And because your routine has been broken to the point that you don't recognize life outside of that routine, now you're like rediscovering yourself. And I'm like, motherfucker, duh. You know, there is a world out there. There is a planet out there with material for you to consume that you do not allow for that to happen because you accept your circumstances. You know, I am saying that I dissent with that and I ain't doing it. but but anyway, I just felt sad that the people around me were zombies. And at some point, I was thinking that I was the crazy one. And then I said, no, I'm not the crazy one. I'm not the one having trouble remembering what I had for breakfast, remembering what I did yesterday, remembering what I did last week. I'm not the one having trouble sleeping or getting my rest in. I'm not the one struggling with my weight. I'm not the one struggling with my identity and like my identity meaning who am I? Like what am I? Who am I? What do I like? Who do I like? What do I want? I'm not the one struggling with that shit. So clearly I'm doing something right. I think what's normal is for you to feel good, not to not be able to rely on your mind, body, soul, memory, skills, abilities. You should be able to form a goddamn sentence that's coherent. Most of the people around me could not even speak coherently. And we were okay with that. Why? That used to be what concerned me the most about the way things were going. So now, even though we have this disaster going on, a lot of people have become more functional. Some people have let their stress eat away at them, say, oh, well, now I have to find two jobs to sustain myself. Or you guys hear what's happening with the airline industry? Like, they are really, really suffering. So there's been pilots who have been retiring early, or some of them take two jobs and stuff. So, you know, their lives are changing. But at the same time, they're like, well, some of them are saying if it weren't for this, then I wouldn't be spending as much time at home, which it reminds me that I worked endlessly because I want to maintain my family. But now I actually get to work in town and come home to them. So, you know, you're still sacrificing, you're still investing too much time working, but at least you're making it back home more often than not. So, yeah, it's been a bizarre year, and that's what I'm going to remember the most about this year. This was the year when a lot of relationships and friendships and stuff that I thought was broken beyond repair, somehow they all came back, and they came back in a way I wasn't expecting. I did not anticipate for them to come back. I wasn't interested in rebuilding some of these relationships, but hey, if they came back, I guess it's because God is saying that it's time for them to be back in my life and I need them for something, or they need me. But I thought it was weird to have my father coming back. Like, he's visited on two occasions, and I'm thinking, if this motherfucker is coming over, it's because it's getting real out there, you know? And my brother, one of them I hadn't spoken to in like 10 years, and the other day randomly gave me a call, and I'm like, you're alive? You exist? Why are you talking to me? And this has made me question some people's intentions, you know? Um, but yeah, it's weird. Not everything has to be dark and negative and focus on losses. People who have lost their homes and jobs and everything, forget the material stuff. Talk to me about the intangible things that you have been able to recover. That's what I'm interested in. So yeah, you guys. I don't know if it has happened to you guys specifically, but there's a lot of stories like this out there, and I'm glad that this turned out positive for some, but also, damn, have we really progressed as a species if something extreme has to happen before we like slow down and chill out, you know? so anyway, so anyway, it's crazy also to see how little discipline and regard for human life there is sometimes. Because did you guys ever hear motherfuckers losing their minds over wearing masks? Lately, more and more, I'm seeing more people come into the store without wearing a mask. How do you feel empowered by this? How do you feel uh, superior or good about yourself knowing that you stand out for the wrong reasons? And I guess you do it because you know that you'll get away with it. It's not something very enforceable, but for real, why can you not cooperate? There are other places that really take pride in the fact that they're doing something to be kind to their neighbors. But because we don't live in like tight knit communities anymore, you don't have regard and kindness for your neighbor because you don't know them. You don't know their names. You didn't grow up with them. You didn't go to school with them. They didn't babysit your kids. They didn't babysit you. So that is the part of society that I have hated to see during all of this. The darker side. Like the side of the people who are really self centered and they think that in this massive blue ball of dirt and water, they are not even. If we were to look at the Earth from outer space, you cannot even be seen. You're not even a little dot in the planet. But somehow you feel that you're so fucking special and entitled to so much. I hate to break it to you, but you're not fucking special. I'm not special. Nobody's special. You're special in your mind and based on the idol status that you may receive. That's why I guess so many people aspire for it, and once they have it, they still feel lost and confused. The human being was not designed for that. But anyway, no, I cannot feel empathy and sympathy for you because you're not fucking special. I live my life feeling that I'm not special. But because I don't feel special doesn't mean I have an inferiority complex. I never let it get like that. I just like to be real. I know that if something happens to me and I kick the bucket, only a small number of people are going to be impacted. And that's all right. And even if you pass on, realistically, if you're someone who's celebrated, whose life are you really changing? Your immediate families, probably. Just like everybody else. Only their immediate family are going to feel the consequences. And for some people, depending on their status, a generation or two may feel some type of way financially, but it doesn't mean that they cannot be born without you in the picture. See what I mean? You're just not. This feeling that the way that, say, businesses are trying to like revamp their brands. You gotta make the customer feel special. People like feeling special. No, motherfucker, just come in, get your stuff, and get out. You know, you don't actually, the people making the rules, you don't actually talk to these people. I'm the one who's at the front lines talking to these people. All they want to know is where's the milk. They want to know that the brand and size that they're looking for is there. They want to grab it, go to the checkout, and get out. And they also want for the lines to be short. That's all that people want when they go to the store. They're not looking for an experience. They're not. Well, at least I'm not looking for an experience. My coworkers are not looking for an experience. My mom, who doesn't work retail, is not looking for an experience. All of the real flesh and bone and blood people who I talk to, whether they're part of my family or colleague circle or not, nobody is looking for that shopping experience of a lifetime when they go to the grocery store wearing their gym clothes, you know? So at least I know these people, but you don't. Maybe have more of us at your board meetings making some decisions, and then you will have a better business that perhaps is not on the news for the wrong reasons. But anyway, that's just my humble opinion. I don't expect everybody to agree, but from my perspective, I'm going to continue to be chill because I think being chill is what's good and normal. Yes, 2028, no joke. People are dying, losing jobs. People cannot see their family sports. Whoops. Doesn't have any fans. Let's trust Jesus to end this. What is it? Have so much to do. So much to do. Mask is killing me and making my breath stink when I take it off during TikToks. Oh my god, for me, the toughest part about the stupid mask has to be when I sneeze and I'm thinking I should really remove this so that I don't have to like walk around with fucking snot all over my face, or say if I happen to, occasionally you just cough because you're a human being and you need to just cough, whether it is because the air is too cold or whatever, and then you can just feel particles just like bouncing back to your face. But for me, what I hate the most is the sneezing aspect. I'm glad that a mask helps keep that contained, but when you only have yourself supplied with just one for 8 hours, it sucks. It really sucks. The virus is worse than September 11. Oh my goodness gracious, for sure. And it's not that we're undermining the suffering that people experienced back then, not at all, but undoubtedly this has affected many, many, many more lives. And I'm not saying that quantity is what matters here. It's just that back in 2001, when that stuff happened, we thought we had it pretty rough. Even those of us who were not directly affected by those events, but we felt the consequences of the decisions that came in the aftermath of those events. Like, that's when a war was declared, or something like that. And that means that some say the military had to be mobilized more, and that was families that now were going to experience some of the consequences of having some of their loved ones going into battle, and some of them did not come back, or some of them came back but not well. And so everything has like I guess a domino effect. And I think this is what we needed in the grand scheme of things. Everybody, absolutely everybody in the planet needed to experience a degree of discomfort, inconvenience, uh, have your routine being challenged so that you can go back to keeping it real. Because damn, we had been spoiled as fuck. Like, the power goes out, we freak out. Our phone is dying, we freak out. We don't have running water, we freak out. We are spoiled. And that's when I think that humbleness is due. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. I think I'm a bail now because it's getting a little late for me. There's some stuff I need to get done before night settles, so I think I'm a quit now. But I will definitely be back, for there's more things that I find are worth discussing. But yeah, I realized that it's now on my end. It's about to be 3, so there's some stuff that I just wish to get done before the weekend strikes, because weekends have been really, really bad around here. And I'm going to try to not be out unless I really have to. Alright, guys, I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.